It was a bright, sunny afternoon when Marcus Jones stepped onto the plane. The sky outside was blue, with fluffy white clouds floating by like big cotton balls. Marcus was a tall guy, maybe taller than your dad or your basketball coach. He had a big, friendly smile that made people feel good, like when you see a happy puppy wagging its tail. He carried a small black backpack over one shoulder and held a plane ticket in his hand. All he wanted was to get home after a long, tiring week. He'd been working hard, and now he was ready to sit down, relax, and maybe take a nap on the flight. Simple, right? That's what he thought too. The plane was busy when Marcus walked in. People were everywhere, stuffing their bags into the little compartments above the seats. Some were chatting, some were laughing, and a few were grumbling about how small the seats were. You know how it is on a plane, everyone's trying to get settled, and it's a little messy at first. Marcus didn't mind. He just kept walking down the skinny aisle, looking for his seat. His shoes made a soft tap-tap sound on the floor. He didn't bump into anyone or say anything loud. He was calm, like a quiet lake on a sunny day. Most people didn't even notice him. They were too busy with their own stuff, finding seats, fixing their bags, or helping their kids sit down. But one person did notice him. Oh yes, she noticed him right away. Her name was Karen Phillips, and she was a flight attendant on this plane. Karen had short, curly hair and wore a blue uniform with a little silver badge pinned to her chest. She stood near the front of the plane, holding a clipboard, checking things off with a pen. Her job was to help people, make sure everyone was safe, and keep the flight running smoothly. That's what flight attendants do, right? They're supposed to be nice and helpful. But Karen? She wasn't feeling nice today. Not at all. From the very second Marcus stepped through the door, Karen's eyes locked onto him like a hawk spotting a mouse. She didn't blink. She didn't smile. She just stared, her lips pressed tight together like she was mad about something. Marcus didn't see her staring yet. He was too busy looking at the numbers above the seats, trying to find his spot. But Karen? She watched every step he took. Her eyes followed him down the aisle, sharp and hard, like she was waiting for him to do something wrong. Why? What was her problem? Marcus didn't know it yet, but those next few minutes, those tiny little minutes, were about to change everything. His ordinary day was going to turn into something wild, something unforgettable. And you're going to want to hear every bit of it? Here's the thing about Marcus, he wasn't loud. He wasn't rude. He wasn't the kind of guy who makes a big fuss or causes trouble. He didn't yell at anyone or push past people. He didn't drop his bag or trip over someone's feet. He was just a regular guy, like your uncle or your neighbor, holding his ticket and minding his own business. His ticket said 12B, that was his seat, right there in the middle of the plane. Nothing fancy, just a normal seat. He didn't ask for anything special. He didn't demand a window or extra snacks. All he wanted was to sit down and fly home. That's it. So why did Karen pick him out of everyone else? Why did she stare at him like he just spilled juice all over her favorite shirt? Good question. Stick with me, because this story's about to take off like a rocket, and you won't believe where it lands. Let's set the scene a little more, okay? Imagine you're on that plane too. You're sitting there, maybe with a bag of pretzels or a book, looking around. The plane smells like coffee and that weird airplane air that's kind of cold and dry. The seats are squished close together, and you can hear the engines humming outside. People are still moving around, trying to get comfortable. A mom up front is telling her little boy to stop kicking the seat. An old man with a gray hat is asking for a pillow. It's noisy, but not crazy noisy like a busy classroom before the teacher says, "Quiet down." Marcus walks past all this, his backpack bouncing a little on his shoulder. He's chill. He's cool. He's not bothering a single soul. But Karen? Oh, Karen's not chill. Not even a little bit. She's standing there with her clipboard, tapping her foot like she's impatient. Her eyes are glued to Marcus, and you can tell something's brewing in her head. It's like when you see a storm coming, dark clouds rolling in, the air getting heavy. You don't know what's going to happen, but you know it's not going to be boring. Marcus doesn't feel the storm yet. He's just thinking about getting home, maybe eating some dinner, and kicking off his shoes. He's got no idea that Karen's watching him like he's the star of some big show she doesn't like. Let me ask you something real quick, have you ever been stared at for no reason? Like, you're just walking along, eating a sandwich or something, and someone looks at you like you did something wrong? It's weird, right? That's how it was for Marcus, except he didn't even know it yet. He was too busy being normal. Too busy being nice. He smiled at a lady who dropped her scarf and said, "Here you go," when he handed it back. He nodded at a kid who waved at him from across the aisle. That's Marcus, friendly, easygoing, the kind of guy who'd share his candy if you asked. So what was Karen's deal? Why was she acting like he was some big problem? Let's zoom in a bit. Marcus is almost at his seat now. He's counting the rows 10, 11, 12. There it is, 12B. It's a middle seat, stuck between two others. Not the best spot, but not the worst either. He doesn't complain. He just shrugs and starts to slide in. His backpack bumps the seat in front of him a little, and he says, "Oops, sorry," to no one in particular. He's polite like that. He sits down, puts his bag under the seat, and reaches for his seat belt. Everything's fine. Everything's normal. The plane's still filling up, people are still talking, and the air feels buzzy with all the little noises. Marcus leans back, ready to chill out. He's got no clue what's coming next. But Karen? She's got a clue. She's got a plan. Or maybe she doesn't, it's hard to tell yet. All we know is she's not happy. She puts her clipboard down on a little counter near the front and starts walking toward Marcus. Her shoes click on the floor, fast and loud. Click, click, click. People look up, wondering what's going on. She's moving like she's on a mission, like she's about to catch someone stealing cookies from the jar. But Marcus isn't stealing anything. He's just sitting there, buckling his seat belt, ready to fly home. So why's she coming for him? What's she going to do? Here's where it gets fun, this isn't just any flight. Nope. This is flight 217, and it's about to be a day no one on that plane will forget. Marcus doesn't know it yet, but he's the key to everything. He's not loud or rude or causing trouble, but something about him, something we don't know yet, is making Karen act strange. Is it his smile? His height? His backpack? Or maybe something bigger, something secret? I'm not telling you yet. You've got to keep listening, because this story's going to twist and turn like a roller coaster, and you won't see the big drop coming. Let's think about Marcus for a second. He's a good guy. You can tell just by looking at him. He's got that kind of face that says, "Hey, I'm nice, don't worry." He's wearing a plain gray shirt and jeans, not fancy, not flashy. His backpack's old, with a little tear on the side, like he's had it forever. He's not trying to show off or be cool. He's just Marcus, heading home. Maybe he's got a dog waiting for him, wagging its tail. Maybe he's got a mom who's cooking his favorite food. We don't know yet, but we know he's not here to make a mess. He's not here to fight. He's just a guy with a ticket, ready to fly. So why does Karen care so much? Why's she marching down the aisle like she's about to yell at him? Let's imagine her for a minute. She's been a flight attendant for a while, maybe a few years. She's seen all kinds of people, loud ones, quiet ones, happy ones, grumpy ones. She's used to telling people what to do: put your bag here, sit down there, buckle up. It's her job. But today, something's different. Today, she's not just doing her job. She's picking on Marcus, and we don't know why. Is she having a bad day? Did she spill her coffee? Or is it something about him, something she doesn't like? Picture this, Marcus is sitting in 12B now. He's got his seatbelt clicked shut. He's looking out the little window across the aisle, watching the ground crew load bags onto the plane. He's calm, like a turtle chilling on a rock. The lady next to him is reading a book, and the guy on the other side is already snoring. Everything's peaceful for now. But Karen's getting closer. Click, click, click go her shoes. She's almost there. Her face is tight, like she's holding back a big shout. What's she going to say? What's she going to do? And why does it matter so much? Here's a little hint, Marcus isn't just a regular guy. Nope. There's something about him, something cool, something secret that's going to make the story explode. But I'm not spilling it yet. You've got to wait, just like everyone on that plane. They don't know it either. They're just watching, whispering, wondering. The lady with the book looks up. The snoring guy opens one eye. Even the mom with the wiggly kid turns her head. Something's about to happen, and it's going to be big. Let me set the mood some more. The plane's engines start to hum louder. The pilot's voice comes on the speaker, "Hey folks, we're getting ready to go. Sit tight. Everyone's settling in now. Bags are tucked away. Seat belts are on." The air feels excited, like the moment before a race starts. Marcus is ready too. He's got his hands in his lap, his backpack safe under the seat. He's not worried. He's not scared. He's just waiting, like everyone else. But Karen? She's not waiting. She's moving. She's coming. And she's got something to say. Why him? That's the big question. Out of all the people on this plane, all the noisy kids, all the grumpy grown ups, why does Karen pick Marcus? He's not doing anything wrong. His ticket says 12B, and he's in 12B. He's not talking loud or kicking the seat or asking for 10 snacks. He's just sitting there, being Marcus. So what's her problem? What's making her act like this? Is it something small, like a mistake? Or something bigger, something wild? You're going to find out soon, I promise. But not yet. We're just getting started. Let's rewind a tiny bit. Marcus walks onto the plane again in your mind. Sunshine's pouring in through the big airport windows. He steps through the door, smiling that friendly smile. His ticket's in his hand, crinkled from being in his pocket. He's tired but happy to be going home. He doesn't know Karen's watching. He doesn't know she's about to turn his day upside down. He's just walking, step by step, toward 12B. The plane's alive with sound, people talking, bags zipping, seats creaking. It's a normal flight, or so it seems. But normal doesn't last long, not today. Karen's stare is the first clue. Her fast steps are the second. Something's brewing, something sneaky and exciting. Marcus is the key, but he doesn't know it yet. He's just a tall guy with a smile, sitting in his seat, ready to fly. Karen's the storm, and she's about to hit. What's going to happen? Why's she so mad? And what's Marcus hiding, if he's hiding anything at all? I've got the answers, and they're coming soon. But for now, just picture it, Marcus in his seat, Karen on her way, and a plane full of people who have no idea what's about to go down. Stick around, okay? This story's taking off, and it's going to fly higher than you expect. Marcus's ordinary day is about to get crazy, and you're along for the ride. Why did Karen zero in on him? What set her off? You won't believe it when you hear it, but you've got to wait just a little longer. This is only the beginning, and it's already getting good. So grab your snacks, get comfy, and let's keep going, because this plane's about to soar into something unforgettable. Marcus finally found his seat 12B. It was a middle seat, right near the front of the plane. Not too far back, not too close to the door, just a regular spot stuck between two other seats. He liked that it wasn't a big deal. He didn't need a window to look out or an aisle to stretch his legs. He just wanted to sit down and rest. So, he slid into 12B real quiet, like a mouse sneaking past a sleeping cat. His backpack bumped the seat a little, but he tucked it under his feet. He was ready to relax, maybe close his eyes and dream about being home. The plane was noisy with people settling in, but Marcus didn't mind. He was chill, like a cool breeze on a hot day. He reached down to grab his seat belt. His fingers touched the cold metal buckle, and he was about to snap it shut. Easy, right? Just click it in, lean back, and wait for the plane to take off. But before he could even pull the strap across his lap, boom, trouble came marching down the aisle. It wasn't a loud boom like thunder, but it felt big anyway. Karen Phillips, the flight attendant with the curly hair and the blue uniform, stormed over like she was mad at the whole world. Her shoes went click 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 on the floor, fast and loud, like she couldn't wait to get to him. Her face was tight, her eyes narrow, and her mouth was a straight line, like when your teacher catches you chewing gum in class. "Sir, you're in the wrong seat," she snapped. Her voice was loud, way louder than it needed to be. It cut through the air like a knife, sharp and mean. Everyone nearby stopped what they were doing. Heads turned. Eyes looked up. It was like the whole plane froze for a second, just to see what was going on. Marcus blinked. He didn't expect that. He wasn't ready for someone to yell at him out of nowhere. He tilted his head a little, confused, like when you hear a weird noise and don't know what it is. "This is 12B, right?" he asked, nice and calm. He held up his boarding pass, the little piece of paper that said where he was supposed to sit. It was right there in his hand, clear as day, seat 12B. But Karen? She didn't even look at it. Not one peek. She didn't care about the paper or what it said. She just crossed her arms and stared at him, her eyes hard like rocks. "I don't care what you think it says," she barked. Her words were fast and rough, like a dog growling at a stranger. "Move. Now." Her tone was super sharp, like when your mom yells at you to clean your room right this second. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a please. It was an order, loud and bossy, like she thought Marcus was some little kid who didn't know anything. She stood there, tall and stiff, waiting for him to jump up and obey her. People around them started to notice big time. A lady across the aisle frowned. Her eyebrows went down, and her mouth turned into a little curve, like she didn't like what she was hearing. She had a red scarf around her neck, and she twisted it in her hands, watching. A guy in the row behind Marcus shook his head slow, like he was saying, "Nope, this isn't right." His hat was tilted back, and he leaned forward a bit to see better. Whispers started buzzing around, soft and sneaky, like bees flying from flower to flower. "What's her problem?" someone mumbled. "He's just sitting there," another voice said. The plane wasn't quiet anymore, it was alive with little sounds, all because of Karen's big, loud voice. Marcus didn't yell back. He didn't jump up or make a fuss. He stayed calm, like a tree standing still in the wind. But if you looked close, real close, you could see something in his eyes. They weren't mad, not yet. They weren't scared either. But they were different. He wasn't just annoyed, like when your little brother takes your toy. He was hurt. You could tell by the way his eyebrows lifted a tiny bit, the way his mouth stayed soft instead of smiling. It was like Karen's words hit him somewhere deep, somewhere that stung a little. He didn't say anything mean back, though. He just sat there, holding his boarding pass, waiting to see what she'd do next. Why was Karen so mad? That's the big question, isn't it? Was it really about the seat? I mean, Marcus was in 12B, and his ticket said 12B. It matched. It was right. So what was the problem? Did she think he was lying? Did she mix up the numbers? Or was it something else, something bigger, something sneaky? You're probably wondering that too, huh? Why was she acting like Marcus broke some huge rule when he didn't do anything wrong? Keep listening, because this isn't the end of it. Marcus wasn't about to let this slide forever, and you shouldn't either. This story's got more coming, and it's going to get good. Let's picture it again, okay? Marcus is in his seat, 12B. It's a middle seat, so he's got people on both sides. The lady on his left has a book open, but now she's not reading, she's looking at Karen. The guy on his right is big, with a loud snore, but even he's waking up a little to peek. Marcus's backpack is under his feet, safe and still. His hands are on his lap, holding that boarding pass like it's proof he belongs there. And he does belong there. The ticket says so. But Karen's standing over him, her shadow falling across his face. She's tall in her uniform, her silver badge shining under the plane's lights. She looks like she's ready to fight, but Marcus isn't fighting. Not yet. Her voice echoes in your head, doesn't it? Move. Now. 2 little words, but they're so mean, so loud. Why didn't she just check the ticket? It would have been easy. Just look at it, see the 12B, and say, "Oh, okay, you're good." That's what a nice flight attendant would do. That's what you'd expect. But Karen didn't do that. She didn't even try. She just snapped at him, like he was a problem she wanted gone. Was she having a bad day? Maybe her coffee spilled that morning, or her boss yelled at her. Maybe she didn't sleep well. Or maybe, just maybe, it wasn't about the seat at all. Maybe it was about Marcus. But why? What did he do to make her so mad? Let's think about Marcus for a second. He's a tall guy with a friendly smile. He's wearing a gray shirt and jeans, nothing fancy, nothing loud. He's not waving his arms or talking big. He's quiet, polite, the kind of person who says thank you when you hold the door. He's not causing trouble. He's not spilling stuff or kicking the seat in front of him. He's just sitting there, trying to buckle up. So why's Karen treating him like he's some big headache? It doesn't add up, does it? Something's off, and you can feel it like when you know a storm's coming but the sky's still clear. The people around him see it too. That lady with the red scarf? She's not happy. She's twisting that scarf tighter now, her frown getting deeper. She's thinking, why's she yelling at him? He didn't do anything. The guy behind Marcus shakes his head again, harder this time. He mutters something to the person next to him, and they nod. The whispers get a little louder. She's being mean, someone says. He's just sitting there, another voice adds. It's like the whole plane is starting to pick sides, and Marcus hasn't even said much. He's just there, calm and quiet, while Karen's making a scene. Karen's not done, though. She's still standing there, waiting for Marcus to move. Her arms are crossed tight, her foot tapping fast on the floor. Tap tap tap. It's loud enough to hear over the plane's hum. She's not backing down. She's not saying, oh, let me check, or sorry, my mistake. Nope. She's doubling down, like she's sure she's right even though she didn't look at the ticket. Her eyes are locked on Marcus, sharp and cold, like she's daring him to argue. But Marcus doesn't argue. He just looks at her, then down at his boarding pass, then back at her. He's confused, yeah, but he's not mad, not yet. He's still cool, still steady. Why's she so mad? Let's guess for a minute. Maybe she thinks Marcus doesn't belong in 12B. Maybe she thinks someone else should have that seat. But why wouldn't she check the ticket then? That's the easy way to find out. Or maybe she's just grumpy and picking on him for no reason. You've seen that before, right? Like when someone's in a bad mood and they take it out on you, even if you didn't do anything. Could be that. But there's a little tickle in the back of your mind, isn't there? A little whisper that says, maybe it's more than that. Maybe Karen's mad about something we don't know yet. Something secret. Something big. Marcus feels it too, that hurt in his eyes. It's not loud hurt, like when you stub your toe and yell. It's quiet hurt, like when someone says something mean and you don't know why. He's not used to this. He's a nice guy, remember? He smiles at people. He helps them pick up stuff they drop. He's not the kind of person who gets yelled at for no reason. So this stings. You can see it in the way he blinks a little faster, the way his shoulders drop just a tiny bit. He's not going to cry or anything, he's too strong for that, but he's feeling it. And that makes you wonder, why's Karen doing this to him? The plane's still buzzing around them. The engines hum louder now, the pilot's getting ready to go. People are buckling up, putting away their stuff. The mom up front is shushing her kid. The old man with the gray hat is leaning back, eyes closed. But near 12B, it's tense. It's like a little bubble of trouble, with Marcus in the middle and Karen standing over him. The lady with the scarf keeps watching. The guy behind keeps shaking his head. The whispers keep going. Everyone's waiting to see what happens next. Will Marcus move? Will Karen yell again? What's going to break this quiet storm? Let's zoom in closer. Marcus's hand is still on his boarding pass. It's a little crumpled from being in his pocket, but you can see the 12B printed on it, big and bold. He's holding it up, not waving it around, just showing it. His voice was soft when he said, "This is 12B, right?" He wasn't being rude. He wasn't being loud. He was just asking, like you'd ask a teacher if you got the right answer. But Karen didn't care. She didn't even look. She just snapped back, "I don't care what you think it says." That's weird, right? If someone shows you proof, you look at it. That's how it works. But not with Karen. She's got her mind made up, and she's not changing it. Her voice sticks with you, doesn't it? It's loud and sharp, like a whistle in your ear. Move. Now. It's not nice. It's not fair. Marcus isn't moving yet, he's still sitting there, looking at her. His eyes are steady, but that hurt is still there, hiding behind them. He's not sure what to do. Should he get up? Should he stay? He knows he's right, his ticket says so, but Karen's acting like he's wrong, and she's the boss. Or at least, she thinks she is. The tension's thick, like fog you can't see through. Something's going to happen soon, and it's going to shake things up. Why's she so mad? Was it really about the seat? Let's think about that. The seat's just a seat, 12B, middle row, nothing special. Marcus isn't taking up extra space or stealing someone's spot. His ticket matches. So if it's not the seat, what is it? Is it Marcus? Does Karen not like him for some reason? But why? He's nice. He's quiet. He's not causing a fuss. Or maybe it's not even about him, maybe it's about her. Maybe she's mad at something else and taking it out on him. But that little whisper's back again, isn't it? That sneaky feeling that says, there's more to this. And there is. Oh, there is. You just don't know it yet. The people watching can feel it too. The lady with the scarf is frowning so hard now her face looks like a grumpy cat. She's on Marcus's side, you can tell. The guy behind keeps shaking his head, like he's seen this kind of thing before and doesn't like it. The whispers are spreading, jumping from seat to seat. She's wrong, someone says. He's got the right seat, another adds. It's like a team forming, all rooting for Marcus without even knowing him. And Marcus? He's still calm, still quiet, but that hurt in his eyes is starting to mix with something else. Something stronger. He's not going to let this slide forever. He's got a plan, or maybe he doesn't yet, but either way, he's not giving up. Karen's still standing there, foot tapping, arms crossed. She's waiting. She thinks she's won. She thinks Marcus is going to jump up and move just because she said so. But he's not moving yet. He's thinking. You can see it in the way his fingers tighten a little on that boarding pass. He's not mad, not loud mad, anyway, but he's not okay with this. And why should he be? He's right. He's in 12B. Karen's the one making a mess, not him. So what's next? What's he going to do? And what's Karen going to say when he doesn't budge? Keep listening, because this isn't over. Not even close. Marcus isn't about to let this slide, and neither should you. The plane's humming, the tension's building, and something big is coming. Why was Karen so mad? Was it the seat? Or something else? You're going to find out, and when you do, it's going to be wild. Stick with me, this story's just heating up. Marcus didn't argue with Karen. Not one bit. He didn't raise his voice or stomp his feet or say, "No way, this is my seat." Nope. He just looked at her for a second, his eyes still calm but a little hurt, and then he nodded. Just a tiny nod, like when you agree to share your snack even if you don't want to. He reached down, grabbed his black backpack from under the seat, and stood up. He didn't make a fuss. He didn't glare at Karen or mutter mean words under his breath. He just slid out of 12B, quiet as a shadow, and started walking a few rows back to find another seat. His shoes made soft little taps on the floor, and his backpack bounced lightly on his shoulder. He found an empty spot, 15C, an aisle seat this time, and sat down again. He tucked his bag under his feet and buckled up, like nothing big had happened. But Karen? Oh, she watched him the whole time. She didn't take her eyes off him for a second. She stood there by 12B, her arms crossed tight over her chest, her lips curled up in a smirk. You know that look, like when someone thinks they've won a game and they're super proud of it? That's how she looked. Her curly hair bounced a little as she tilted her head, and her silver badge glinted under the plane's lights. She acted like she'd just fought some big battle and came out on top. Like Marcus moving was proof she was the boss, the queen of the plane. She didn't say anything else to him, just smirked and watched him go, like a hawk staring down at a mouse scurrying away. But here's where it gets interesting. Marcus wasn't just any passenger. Nope. He wasn't some regular guy who'd let this go and forget about it. He kept his cool because he knew something Karen didn't. Something big. Something juicy. And that's where the story starts to heat up. The plane's engines roared louder now. You could feel it in your chest, that deep rumble as the plane rolled down the runway. The windows showed the ground moving fast, zoom, zoom, until suddenly, whoosh. The plane lifted off, climbing up into the sky. The seats shook a little, and the little lights above blinked on, telling everyone to keep their seat belts buckled. People leaned back, some closing their eyes, some looking out the windows at the shrinking airport below. It was a normal takeoff, nothing wild except for what was happening inside. Because while the plane was flying up, something else was starting to bubble. Something sneaky. Something exciting. Karen didn't sit down or relax. Nope. She kept moving, walking up and down the aisle like she owned the whole plane. She was bossy, super bossy. Up near the front, a mom was holding a baby who was crying, little wails filling the air. Karen stopped and pointed at her. "You need to quiet that baby," she said, her voice loud and grumpy. The mom looked surprised, her eyes wide, but she nodded and started rocking the baby faster. Karen didn't wait to see if it worked, she just turned and kept going. A few rows later, an old man with a gray hat raised his hand. "Can I have some water?" he asked, his voice soft and shaky. Karen rolled her eyes, rolled them big, like she couldn't believe he'd dare ask her for anything. "Wait your turn," she snapped, then marched off without even a smile. She acted like she was the king or maybe the queen of everything, and everyone else was just there to bother her. Meanwhile, Marcus was sitting in his new seat, 15C. He wasn't near the front anymore, but he could still see Karen stomping around. He didn't stare at her, though. He didn't glare or frown. He just sat there, his hands in his lap, his face calm. But then he did something. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. It was a regular phone, black and a little scratched, nothing fancy. He turned it on, the screen lighting up his face with a soft glow. His fingers started moving, tap, 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 typing something fast. What was he doing? Who was he texting? He didn't look worried or mad. He just typed, his thumbs dancing over the screen, like he had a secret plan brewing. And maybe he did. Maybe that's why he stayed so cool when Karen yelled at him. Maybe he wasn't just any passenger after all. Little hints were starting to drop, like crumbs falling off a cookie. The other passengers were noticing things too. A woman sitting next to Marcus in 15B, she had a green sweater and glasses, looked over at him. She'd seen the whole thing with Karen, and she didn't like it. Not one bit. She leaned closer, just a little, and whispered, "You okay?" She was way out of line. Her voice was soft, like she didn't want Karen to hear. Marcus turned his head and smiled at her, not a big grin, just a small, friendly one. "Don't worry," he said, his voice steady and quiet. "It'll sort itself out." Then he went back to typing on his phone, like nothing was wrong. What did he mean? It'll sort itself out? That's a funny thing to say, isn't it? Most people, if someone yelled at them like that, they'd be mad. They'd grumble or complain or maybe tell a friend later, "You won't believe what happened." But Marcus? He wasn't mad. He wasn't grumbling. He just smiled and said it'd be okay. Why? What did he know that Karen didn't? What was he typing on that phone? The woman in the green sweater tilted her head, curious now. She didn't ask more, but you could tell she was thinking about it. And so were other people. The guy behind Marcus, the one with the hat who'd shaken his head earlier, was watching too. He leaned forward a bit, peeking over the seat. Something was up, and they could feel it. Let's set the scene some more. The plane's flying high now, way up above the clouds. The sky outside is bright blue, and the sun shines through the little windows, making squares of light on the floor. Inside, it's a mix of sounds: babies fussing, people whispering, the engines humming. Karen's still marching around, her shoes clicking loud on the floor. She stops to tell a kid to sit down, her voice sharp like a teacher's. "No standing," she snaps, and the kid plops back into his seat fast. She keeps going, checking seat belts, glaring at anyone who looks at her too long. She's like a storm moving through the plane, loud and pushy, leaving everyone a little rattled. But Marcus? He's the opposite. He's calm, like a sunny day after the rain. He's done typing now, and he slips his phone back into his pocket. He leans back in 15C, his hands resting on his knees. He doesn't look at Karen. He doesn't look mad or scared. He just sits there, waiting. For what? That's the big question. What's he waiting for? The woman next to him keeps sneaking little glances his way. She's curious, she can't help it. He's so calm, she thinks. Too calm. And she's right. Most people would be upset after getting yelled at like that, But Marcus isn't. Why not? What's his secret? Let's think about Karen for a minute. She's acting like she's in charge of everything. She's telling people what to do, rolling her eyes, smirking like she's won something big. She thinks she's the boss, and maybe she is on this plane, anyway. Flight attendants are supposed to help, sure, but they also get to say what goes. Sit here, buckle up, be quiet, that's their job. And Karen loves that part. You can tell by the way she walks, all tall and stiff, like she's important. She loved making Marcus move. It made her feel strong, like she'd showed him who's boss. But what she doesn't know, what she can't see, is that Marcus isn't just some guy she can push around. Nope. He's got something up his sleeve, and it's starting to peek out. Back to Marcus. He's in 15C now, the aisle seat. It's not as squished as the middle, so he's got a little more room. The lady in the green sweater is on his left, and an empty seat is on his right. He's comfy, or at least he looks it. His backpack's under his feet, his phone's in his pocket, and his seatbelt's clicked shut. He's not fidgeting or looking around. He's just there. But that phone thing? That's a clue. He typed something fast, something important. Who was it to? His mom? A friend? Someone else? And why did he say, "It'll sort itself out"? That's not what you say unless you know something's coming. Something good. Something big. The plane keeps flying, smooth and steady. The clouds outside look like fluffy pillows, all white and soft. Inside, though, it's not so soft. Karen's still bossing people around. She stops by a guy with a big suitcase and tells him to shove it under his seat better. It's sticking out, she says, her voice like a whip. The guy nods quick and pushes it harder. Karen moves on, satisfied. She's leaving little waves of grumbles behind her, people whispering, "She's rude," or "Why's she so mean?" But she doesn't care. She keeps going, her smirk still there, her arms crossing every time she stops. The passengers near Marcus are different, though. They're not grumbling, they're watching. The woman in the green sweater keeps thinking about what he said. It'll sort itself out. She's turning it over in her head, like a puzzle she can't solve yet. The guy behind, with the hat, is still peeking. He saw Marcus type on his phone, and now he's curious too. Even the lady with the red scarf from earlier, way up in row 10, keeps looking back. She didn't like how Karen yelled at Marcus, and now she's wondering what's up. Little hints are dropping all over, like rain starting slow before a big storm. Let's imagine Marcus's side for a second. He's sitting there, quiet and cool. His gray shirt is wrinkled from the day, and his jeans are a little faded. He's not fancy, he's just Marcus. But that calm? That's not normal. Most people would be mad after Karen's scene. They'd huff and puff or tell the person next to them, "That was so unfair." But Marcus doesn't. He smiles at the woman in the green sweater and says it'll be fine. Why's he so sure? What's he hiding? Because he is hiding something, we know that now. He's not just any passenger. Karen doesn't know it, but she picked the wrong guy to mess with. And that phone? That text? It's a clue, a big, shiny clue. The plane's been in the air for a few minutes now. The pilot's voice comes on again, "Folks, we're cruising at 30,000 feet. Relax and enjoy the ride." People settle in more. The baby up front stops crying, finally. The old man with the hat leans back, still waiting for his water. Karen keeps moving, but she's slowing down a bit. She's still bossy, still rolling her eyes, but she's not yelling anymore. Maybe she thinks she's done enough. Maybe she thinks she's won. She glances back at Marcus once, that smirk still on her face. She sees him sitting there, quiet in 15C, and she thinks, good. He knows his place. Oh, but she's wrong. So wrong. Marcus isn't worried about his place. He's not thinking about Karen's smirk or her loud voice. He's thinking about something else, something we don't know yet. That text he sent? It's out there now, flying through the air faster than the plane. Who got it? What did it say? Was it short, like help, or long, like a whole story? We don't know, but we know it matters. The woman in the green sweater can feel it too. She's not whispering anymore, she's just watching Marcus, her glasses slipping down her nose a little. He's different, she thinks. He's not scared. And she's right. He's not. Little revelations are popping up, aren't they? Marcus isn't just some guy. He's got a secret, something big that Karen doesn't see. He moved seats because he didn't want a fight, not because he was afraid. He typed on his phone because he's got a plan, or maybe someone else does. And that it'll sort itself out? That's not just talk. That's a promise. Something's coming, something that's going to turn this whole thing upside down. The passengers are starting to sense it. The air feels different now, not just plain air, but exciting air, like before a surprise party when you know the cake's about to come out. Karen keeps doing her thing, bossing and smirking. She doesn't see the hints. She doesn't hear the whispers. She thinks she's in control, but she's not. Marcus is calm, too calm, and that phone is the key. What did he say? Who's on the other end? The woman in the green sweater wants to know. The guy with the hat wants to know. Even you want to know, right? Hang tight, because the answer's coming and it's a game changer. This plane ride's about to get wild, and Marcus is right in the middle of it. Keep listening, the best part's almost here. The plane had been flying for 9 minutes. Just 9 little minutes since it took off, zooming up into the sky. Everything felt smooth now, no bumps, no shakes, just a steady hum from the engines. The clouds outside the windows looked like fluffy white sheep, floating in a big blue field. Inside, people were starting to relax. The baby up front wasn't crying anymore. The old man with the gray hat was dozing off. Even the whispers about Karen's yelling had quieted down. The plane was cruising, nice and easy, high above the world. It was like nothing big could happen now, everything was calm. Or so they thought. Then crackle. The intercom came on. You know that little speaker thing above the seats that makes a funny noise before someone talks? That's what happened. A loud bzzzt filled the air, and everyone looked up, surprised. Attention, crew, a deep voice said. This is your captain. Karen Phillips, report to the front immediately. The words were clear and strong, like when your principal calls someone to the office over the school speaker. The whole cabin went silent. Dead quiet. No talking, no whispering, no nothing. Just the hum of the plane and that big announcement hanging in the air. Everyone froze, like they'd been caught in a game of statues. What was going on? Why was the captain calling Karen? Karen smirked, the one she'd been wearing like a prize vanished. Poof. Gone in a flash. Her lips, all curled up and proud before, dropped flat. Her eyes got wide, and her face looked funny, like she wasn't sure what to do. She was standing in the middle of the aisle, bossing someone about their bag, when the captain's voice hit. She stopped mid-sentence, her mouth open a little, like she'd forgotten what she was going to say. Then she snapped it shut and started moving. Fast. Her shoes went click 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 on the floor, louder than ever, as she marched up the aisle toward the front. She wasn't smirking now. She wasn't bossing. She was muttering soft, grumpy words under her breath, like this can't be, or what now? Nobody could hear her exact words, but you could tell she wasn't happy. Not one bit. Everyone watched her go. Every single person on that plane turned their head or peeked over their seat. The lady with the green sweater next to Marcus sat up straight. The guy with the hat behind him leaned forward. Even the mom with the baby craned her neck to see. They were curious, super curious. What was happening? Why did the captain sound so serious? Why was Karen needed at the front right now? The air felt buzzy, like before a big surprise at a birthday party. Something was up, and they all wanted to know what. Their eyes followed Karen as she marched, her curly hair bouncing, her blue uniform looking less powerful than before. She didn't look back. She just kept going, her muttering getting quieter until she reached the front. When she got there, a man was waiting. Not just any man, a man in a suit. He wasn't a regular passenger. Nope. He didn't have a backpack or a snack like everyone else. He was standing near the little kitchen area where the flight attendants get drinks, and he looked important. His suit was dark gray, all neat and crisp, with a red tie that stood out like a stop sign. He'd been on the phone since the plane took off. People had seen him, standing up front, talking quietly into his earpiece. Nobody paid him much attention before. They thought he was just some guy doing work stuff. But now, oh, now he had everyone's eyes on him. He put his phone down and turned to Karen as she walked up. His face was serious, like a teacher about to give a big lecture. "Karen," he said, loud enough for the nearby rows to hear. His voice was deep and clear, cutting through the quiet like a bell. "You're done." "Done." What did that mean? Karen stopped walking. Her shoes didn't click anymore. She stood there, staring at the man in the suit, her mouth opening a little like she wanted to say something but couldn't. The people in the front rows leaned closer, their ears perked up. The lady with the red scarf in row 10 gasped softly. The guy with the hat muttered, "Whoa." The man in the suit kept going, not waiting for Karen to talk. "You've been recorded yelling at a passenger for no reason," he said. "That man you humiliated? Marcus Jones. He's an airline inspector." Boom. There it was, the big reveal. Gasps rippled through the plane, like little waves on a pond after you toss in a rock. People sucked in their breath, gasp, gasp, gasp all over the cabin. The lady with the green sweater clapped her hand over her mouth. The guy with the hat said, "No way," loud enough for Marcus to hear. The mom with the baby turned around to look at Marcus, her eyes big as dinner plates. An airline inspector? Marcus? The tall guy with the friendly smile who'd been sitting so quiet? That Marcus? The one Karen yelled at over a seat? It was like a bomb went off, but a good bomb, the kind that makes you cheer instead of run. Karen's face changed fast. First it turned red, bright red, like a tomato or a stoplight. She looked mad, or maybe scared, or maybe both. Her cheeks puffed out a little, and her eyes darted around, like she was looking for a way out. Then, just as quick, her face went white, pale as a ghost. The red faded, and she looked sick, like she might fall over. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, frozen, staring at the man in the suit. Her arms dropped to her sides, not crossed anymore. Her smirk was long gone. She didn't look like the boss now. She looked small, like a kid caught sneaking candy before dinner. Marcus, though. He was still sitting in 15C, way back a few rows. Calm as ever. He didn't even look up from his phone. His thumbs were still on the screen, like he was reading something or maybe playing a game. He didn't jump up or cheer or point at Karen and say, "Ha." Nope. He just sat there, his gray shirt wrinkled, his backpack under his feet, acting like nothing huge was happening. But it was huge. He texted his boss the second Karen snapped at him way back when she yelled, "Move. Now." That's what he was typing on his phone earlier. He didn't get mad or yell back because he didn't need to. He just sent a quick message, and now here they were. The man in the suit? That was his supervisor, his big boss, who was already on the plane to check the crew. And Karen? She didn't just mess up. She picked the worst person to mess with. Let's rewind a bit and picture it. 9 minutes ago, the plane took off. Marcus was in his new seat, 15C, after Karen made him move. He pulled out his phone and typed something fast. Remember that? The woman in the green sweater asked if he was okay, and he said, "It'll sort itself out." That's when he sent the text. He didn't tell anyone, he didn't need to. His boss, the man in the suit, was already on board. He'd been watching the whole time, quiet up front with his phone, checking on the crew. That's what airline inspectors do. They fly on planes, pretending to be regular people, to make sure everything's going right. Marcus was one of them. Karen didn't know. Nobody knew. But when she yelled at him for no reason, Marcus didn't fight. He just texted his boss, "She's being rude." And that was it. The trap was set. Now, 9 minutes later, it all came crashing down. The captain's voice on the intercom was the signal. "Karen Phillips, report to the front immediately." That's when the man in the suit stepped up. He'd been on the phone with Marcus's text, and maybe even a recording because planes have cameras and microphones sometimes. Karen's loud voice. Her move. Now. It was all caught. The man in the suit had proof. And when he said, "You're done," he meant it. Karen wasn't just in trouble, she was out. Finished. No more bossing people around on this flight. She'd been caught, and Marcus was the reason why. The plane was buzzing now, not with engines, but with people. The gasps turned to whispers, then to chatter. He's an inspector, someone said. She's in big trouble, another voice added. The lady with the green sweater turned to Marcus, her glasses slipping down. You're an inspector, she asked, her voice all shaky and excited. Marcus looked up from his phone, just for a second, and smiled that small, friendly smile. Yeah, he said, simple as that. Then he looked back down, like it wasn't a big deal. But it was a big deal to everyone else, anyway. Karen didn't move at first. She just stood there, white-faced, staring at the man in the suit. Her hands shook a little, like she didn't know what to do with them. The man in the suit didn't yell, he didn't need to. His voice was enough. You've been recorded, he said again, slower this time. Yelling at a passenger for no reason. That's not how we do things here. He pointed toward the back of the plane, not at Marcus exactly, but everyone knew who he meant. Marcus Jones is an airline inspector. He's here to check us, the crew. And you just failed. Big time. Failed. Oh yeah. Karen didn't just mess up a little. She messed up huge. And everyone heard it? The gasps kept coming. The guy with the hat clapped his hands once, loud and happy. Serves her right, he said, grinning. The lady with the red scarf nodded, her frown turning into a little smile. The mom with the baby whispered to her kid, see? You don't be mean to people. The whole plane was alive now, buzzing with excitement. They'd watched Karen yell at Marcus, they'd seen her smirk and boss everyone around, and now bam, she was the one in trouble. It felt good, like when the bully in a story finally gets caught. Karen's red face was gone now, just white, pale white. She opened her mouth, like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. What could she say? The man in the suit had proof. Marcus had texted him. The captain knew. It was over. She'd thought Marcus was just some guy she could push around, but he wasn't. He was an inspector, someone who checks if flight attendants and pilots are doing their jobs right. And Karen? She'd done her job wrong. Really wrong. She didn't check his ticket. She didn't listen. She just yelled and smirked and thought she'd won. But she didn't win. Marcus did, without even raising his voice. Marcus stayed calm through it all. Back in 15C, he was still sitting there, phone in his hands. He didn't look up when the captain called Karen. He didn't turn around when the man in the suit said his name. He didn't cheer or laugh when everyone gasped. He just sat there, like he knew this was coming. And he did. That text he sent? It was like pressing a button that started everything. He didn't need to fight Karen himself, his boss was there to do it. The man in the suit was already on the plane, watching the crew, and Marcus's message told him exactly what happened. Karen didn't just mess with a passenger, she messed with the wrong passenger. The worst one to pick. Let's picture it again. 9 minutes into the flight. The plane's smooth, the sky's blue, and then crackle the intercom. Karen Phillips, report to the front immediately. She marches up, muttering, her smirk gone. The man in the suit is waiting, all serious in his gray suit and red tie. He says she's done caught yelling at Marcus for no reason. And then the big drop, he's an airline inspector. Gasps everywhere. Karen's face goes red, then white. Marcus sits back in 15C, cool and quiet, like he's watching a movie he already knows the end of. The man in the suit, his boss, was on the phone the whole time, getting Marcus's text, checking the proof. Karen didn't see it coming. Nobody did except Marcus. The plane felt different now. Not calm anymore, excited. People were talking, leaning over seats, looking at Marcus. The lady with the green sweater kept staring at him, like he was a superhero in disguise. The guy with the hat was grinning, shaking his head like he couldn't believe it. The whispers turned loud, an inspector. That's why he was so calm. And the air buzzed with it. Karen stood up front, small and shaky, while the man in the suit looked at her like a disappointed dad. She'd messed up, and everyone knew it. Marcus didn't have to say a word, his secret did it all. Why was it so big? Because Marcus wasn't just any guy. He was an airline inspector, someone who flies to make sure the crew is nice and fair and safe. Karen wasn't nice. She wasn't fair. She yelled at him over a C-12B that was his, and she didn't even check his ticket. She thought she could boss him around, but she didn't know who he was. That text he sent? It was like a quiet little bomb, and 9 minutes later, it blew up in Karen's face. The man in the suit was there to catch her, and Marcus just sat back and let it happen. He didn't need to fight, his job did it for him. The cabin was loud now, happy loud. People were smiling, nodding, talking fast. She had it coming, someone said. He's so cool, another added. Karen didn't move. She just stood there, white-faced, while the man in the suit stared her down. Marcus stayed in his seat, phone in hand, still calm. He didn't need to look up. He didn't need to cheer. He'd won without even trying hard. Karen picked the worst person to mess with, an inspector with a boss on board, and now she was done. The big reveal was out, and it was awesome. Stick around, because this plane's still flying, and the story's not over yet. The man in the suit, the supervisor, didn't mess around. He stood there at the front of the plane, his gray suit neat and his red tie bright, looking straight at Karen. She was still standing in front of him, her face white and her hands shaking. He didn't yell or wave his arms. He didn't need to. His voice was strong and clear, like when your teacher says something super important and you know you better listen. Karen, he said, you're off this flight. When we land, you're fired. We don't treat people like that here. Boom. Just like that, it was done. No second chances, no maybe next time. He meant it. Karen was out. Karen didn't say a word. Her mouth opened a little, like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. What could she say? The supervisor had proof. She'd been recorded yelling at Marcus for no reason. She'd been mean and bossy, and now it was over. Her eyes darted around, looking at the floor, then at the wall, then back at the floor again. She didn't look at the supervisor. She didn't look at anyone. The passengers sitting close, those lucky ones in the front rows, heard every word. They sat up straighter, their eyes big, waiting to see what she'd do. The lady with the red scarf nodded, like she agreed. The guy with the hat smiled a little. And then it started clapping. At first, it was slow. Just a few hands coming together, clap, clap, soft and quiet, like rain starting to fall. It came from the back, maybe near Marcus, maybe from someone who'd seen the whole thing. Then it grew. More people joined in. Clap, 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 louder now, faster too. The lady with the green sweater next to Marcus clapped her hands hard, her glasses bouncing on her nose. The guy with the hat clapped too, his big hands making a loud smack every time. The mom with the baby clapped with one hand, holding her kid with the other. It spread like wildfire, jumping from row to row, until the whole plane was clapping. Clap, 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 clap. It wasn't super loud like a concert, but it was strong. It was happy. It was like they were all saying, "Good job," without words. Karen's head dropped. She didn't look up at the clapping. She didn't smirk or roll her eyes like before. She just stood there, her curly hair falling over her face a little. Then she moved. She turned to the side, where a little pile of bags sat near the front, and grabbed one, a blue one with a zipper. It was hers. She slung it over her shoulder, her hands moving fast but shaky. Her head stayed down, like she didn't want anyone to see her eyes. She didn't say goodbye to the supervisor. She didn't look at the passengers. She just shuffled away, slow steps, her shoes barely clicking now, toward the back of the plane. She found an empty seat, way in the back, far from Marcus, far from everyone who'd heard. She sat down, plopped her bag in her lap, and went silent. No talking, no muttering, nothing. She just sat there for the rest of the flight, small and quiet, like a mouse hiding in a corner. Marcus, though. He was different. He didn't cheer or jump up when the supervisor said Karen was fired. He didn't laugh or point at her as she shuffled away. He didn't even clap with everyone else. He just sat there in 15C, his aisle seat, calm as ever. His gray shirt was still wrinkled, his backpack still under his feet. He looked at the woman next to him, the one in the green sweater who'd asked if he was okay earlier. She was clapping, her hands red from smacking them together. She stopped when she saw him looking and smiled, a little shy. Marcus nodded at her, just a tiny dip of his head, like when you say hi to a friend. "Thanks for checking on me," he said. His voice was soft, nice, like always. That was it, no big speech, no bragging. Just a simple thanks. The woman blinked, surprised. "You're welcome," she said, her voice all wobbly with excitement. "I can't believe you're an inspector." Marcus smiled his small, friendly smile and shrugged. "It's just my job," he said, like it was no big deal. But it was a big deal. The whole plane knew it now. Word spread faster than the plane flying through the sky. It started with the people up front who heard the supervisor. They whispered to the people next to them, "He's an airline inspector." Those people told the ones behind them, and it kept going row by row, seat by seat. Karen yelled at an inspector. He got her fired. She didn't know who he was. By the time the clapping stopped, everyone knew. Everyone. The plane kept flying, smooth and steady. The clouds outside were still fluffy, the sun still bright. Inside, though, it felt different. People weren't just relaxing anymore, they were talking, smiling, looking at Marcus. The lady with the green sweater kept sneaking peeks at him, like he was a hero from a comic book. The guy with the hat leaned over his seat and said, "Good job, man." Marcus nodded again, polite as ever. The mom with the baby turned around and gave him a little wave, her kid giggling in her lap. It was like Marcus was famous now, but he didn't act like it. He didn't stand up and take a bow. He didn't wave back or grin big. He just sat there, chill and quiet, like he always did. Time passed, maybe an hour, maybe less. The plane started to dip a little, the engines humming softer. The pilot's voice came on the intercom again, "Folks, we're getting ready to land. Buckle up and sit tight." People pulled their seat belts tighter, put away their snacks, and got ready. The clapping was done, the whispers were quieter, but the feeling was still there. Justice. Karen had been mean, and now she was paying for it. Marcus had been calm, and now he was winning. It felt right, like when the good guy in a story beats the bad guy and everyone cheers. When the plane landed, bump, bump, screech, it rolled to a stop at the gate. The little ding sound rang out, telling everyone they could unbuckle. People stood up fast, grabbing their bags, stretching their legs. The crew, the other flight attendants who weren't Karen, moved to the front. They opened the door, letting that fresh airport air rush in. But before anyone got off, something happened. Two of the crew members, a lady with a ponytail and a guy with glasses, walked down the aisle. Straight to Marcus. They stopped by 15C, where he was still sitting, pulling his backpack out from under the seat. "Mr. Jones," the lady with the ponytail said, her voice nice and soft. "We're so sorry about what happened. That wasn't okay." The guy with glasses nodded. "Yeah, we didn't know she'd do that. We apologize." They looked worried, like they thought Marcus might be mad at them too. But he wasn't. He stood up, his tall frame filling the aisle, and smiled that friendly smile. "It's all good," he said. "Thanks for saying that." The crew looked relieved, like a big weight fell off their shoulders. They shook his hand, first the lady, then the guy, and stepped back so he could get his stuff. Passengers were watching again. A few stayed close, waiting their turn to get off. One guy, a big man with a beard, reached out as Marcus passed. "Hey, man, that was awesome," he said, and stuck out his hand. Marcus shook it, nodding. "Thanks," he said. Then a lady with a pink hat did the same. "You're cool," she said, and Marcus shook her hand too. "Appreciate it," he replied. It kept happening. A few more people, all smiling, all wanting to say something nice. Marcus didn't rush them off. He shook every hand, said thanks every time, and kept that calm look on his face. He didn't gloat. He didn't act big. He was just Marcus, tall, friendly, and now a little famous on flight 217. Karen. She was still in the back. Way back, in that last row where she'd plopped down. She didn't stand up right away when the plane landed. Everyone else was moving, grabbing bags, lining up, but she just sat there, her blue bag in her lap, her head still down. The clapping had stopped, the excitement had moved to Marcus, and she was alone. Finally, she stood up, slow and quiet. She didn't look at anyone, not the crew, not the passengers, not Marcus. She kept her eyes on the floor, her hair hiding her face, and shuffled toward the door. Her steps were soft now, no loud click 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 like before. She didn't boss anyone or roll her eyes. She just slinked off the plane, like a shadow slipping away. Nobody clapped for her. Nobody shook her hand. A few people glanced her way, but most didn't care anymore. She was jobless now, the supervisor said so. When we land, you're fired. That was it. She'd yelled at Marcus, thought she'd won, but she'd lost everything. Her badge didn't mean anything now. Her uniform didn't make her the boss. She walked off into the airport, her bag dragging behind her, humiliated and small. Nobody said goodbye. Nobody waved. She was gone, and that was that. Marcus walked off different. His head was high, not stuck up high, but proud high, like when you finish a hard game and know you did good. He stepped into the airport, his backpack over one shoulder, his gray shirt still wrinkled. The lady with the green sweater waved at him as she left, and he waved back. The guy with the hat gave him a thumbs up. The crew watched him go, still looking sorry but glad he wasn't mad. People in the gate area, ones who weren't even on the flight, turned to look, because word had spread there too. "That's the inspector guy," someone whispered. Marcus didn't stop to listen. He just kept walking, steady and calm, like always. "Let's picture it one more time. The supervisor says, 'You're fired,' and the plane claps slow, then loud. Karen grabs her bag and shuffles to the back, silent and small. Marcus nods to the woman next to him, says thanks, and stays cool. Word spreads fast, 'Inspector, Inspector,' and by landing, everyone knows. The crew says sorry, passengers shake his hand, and Karen slinks off, jobless and sad. Marcus walks away, head high, not gloating, just being Marcus. It's over, and it feels good, really good. Why'd it feel good? Because Karen was mean, and mean people don't win forever. She yelled at Marcus for no reason, didn't check his ticket, didn't care. She thought she could boss him around because she was the flight attendant, but she was wrong. Marcus was an inspector, someone who makes sure planes are fair and safe. He didn't fight her with words or fists. He just texted his boss, and justice came fast. 9 minutes fast. The supervisor was there, the proof was there, and Karen was out. The passengers clapped because they saw it, saw her lose, saw Marcus win. It was fair. It was right. The plane was empty now. The gate was quieting down. Marcus was gone, off to wherever he was headed, maybe home to a dog or a hot meal. Karen was gone too, off to figure out what's next with no job. The crew stayed to clean up, still talking about what happened. He was so calm, the lady with the ponytail said. She didn't see it coming, the guy with glasses added. They shook their heads, amazed. The passengers who'd clapped and cheered went their own ways, telling the story to friends or family. "You won't believe what happened on my flight." Justice was served clear and simple. Karen's meanness got her fired. Marcus's quiet strength got him respect. The plane ride started with a fight over a seat, but it ended with a lesson: don't treat people bad, because you never know who they are. Marcus didn't need to shout or show off. He let the truth do it for him. And when he walked away, head high, everyone knew he'd won not just a seat, but the whole day. That's how it ended, and that's why it felt so good. So, what's the takeaway here? What's the big thing we learned from this wild plane ride with Marcus and Karen? Let's think about it together, okay? Sometimes, the person you think you can push around, the one you think is small or weak or easy to boss, turns out to be the one pulling the strings. That's what happened here. Karen thought Marcus was just some regular guy, someone she could yell at and make move just because she said so. She thought she was the big boss, the queen of the plane, with her loud voice and her smirky face. But she was wrong, super wrong. Marcus wasn't just any guy. He was an airline inspector, someone important who checks if people like Karen are doing their jobs right. And guess what? He didn't yell back at her. He didn't fight or stomp his feet. He let Karen dig her own grave, her own big, messy hole, and she never even saw it coming. Isn't that cool? Let's picture it one more time, just to feel it again. Karen standing there in her blue uniform, arms crossed, telling Marcus, "Move. Now." She's loud, she's mean, and she thinks she's won when he gets up and walks to another seat. She smirks like it's a game and she's the champion. But Marcus? He's calm. He's quiet. He sits down in 15C, pulls out his phone, and types a little message to his boss. He doesn't need to shout or argue, he's got something bigger. 9 minutes later, bam. The captain calls Karen to the front, the man in the suit says she's fired, and everyone finds out Marcus is the real deal. Karen's smirk is gone, her head's down, and Marcus just sits there, cool as a cucumber. He didn't dig her grave, she did it herself with her own mean words. And that's the takeaway: sometimes, the quiet ones, the ones who don't fight back loud, are the strongest of all. What does that mean for you? Think about it. Have you ever seen someone being mean to another person, like pushing them around or saying rude stuff for no good reason? Maybe at school, on the playground, or even at home. It happens, right? Someone thinks they're big and tough, so they pick on someone who looks smaller or quieter. But here's the thing Marcus showed us: you never know who that quiet person really is. They might be someone special, someone with a secret, someone who's got more power than you think. Marcus didn't look like an inspector, no fancy suit, no loud voice, just a tall guy in a gray shirt with a friendly smile. Karen didn't know who he was, and that's why she lost. Next time you see someone being treated unfairly, remember Marcus. You never know who they really are or what they're capable of doing. Let's imagine it in your world. Say there's a kid in your class who's quiet. They don't talk a lot, don't run around yelling, just sit there doing their work. Maybe someone louder, someone like Karen, starts picking on them. Hey, move your stuff, they say, all bossy and mean. The quiet kid doesn't fight back, they just move their stuff and stay calm. But what if that kid's got a secret? What if they're super smart, or really good at something, or maybe their dad's the principal? The loud kid doesn't know, and one day, surprise, the quiet kid comes out on top. That's what Marcus did. He stayed calm, let Karen be mean, and then whoosh, justice came fast. It's like a superhero story, but real. The quiet ones can surprise you, and that's something to think about. Why does that matter? Because it's not just about Marcus and Karen. It's about all of us. Sometimes, we judge people too quick. We look at them and think, oh, they're not loud, they're not big, they're not important. But looks can trick you. Karen judged Marcus by his quietness, his regular clothes, his friendly smile. She thought he was someone she could push around. Nope. He was pulling the strings the whole time, quiet strings, sneaky strings, but strong ones. He texted his boss, sat back, and let it happen. That's power, not the loud kind, but the smart kind. And you've got that power too. You don't have to yell or fight to be strong. You can be calm, be kind, and still win. Marcus showed us that, and it's a big, cool lesson. Let's talk about Karen for a minute. She didn't see it coming, did she? She was too busy being mean, too busy thinking she was the boss. She yelled at Marcus over a C-12B that was his all along. She didn't check his ticket, didn't listen, didn't care. She dug her own grave, step by step, with every loud word and every smirk. When the supervisor said, "You're fired," it wasn't just because Marcus was an inspector. It was because Karen was unfair. She treated him bad for no reason, and that's not okay. The plane clapped because they saw it, they saw justice. Karen thought she could push people around, but she pushed the wrong guy, and it all fell apart. That's another takeaway: being mean doesn't make you win. It makes you lose, even if it takes 9 minutes to find out. What if Marcus had yelled back? What if he'd stood up in 12B and shouted, "This is my seat"? Would it have ended the same? Maybe not. He might have looked mad, not smart. People might have thought, oh, they're both loud, who cares? But he didn't. He stayed quiet, moved to 15C, and let his secret do the work. That's what made it so awesome. He didn't need to dig Karen's grave, her own meanness did it. She never saw it coming because she was too busy being rude. And when the truth came out, when everyone heard airline inspector, it was like a big, happy surprise. The quiet guy won, the mean lady lost, and the whole plane cheered. That's a story worth remembering. So, what can you do with this? Next time you're out there at school, at the park, anywhere, keep your eyes open. Watch the quiet ones. Watch the ones who don't make a fuss. They might be the strongest, the smartest, the ones with a secret up their sleeve. And if someone's being unfair, if they're pushing someone around like Karen did, don't just sit there. Say something, or help out, or maybe just wait and see. Because justice comes sometimes, fast like it did for Marcus, and it feels good when it does. You never know who's pulling the strings, who's got a phone in their pocket ready to text the truth. That's the magic of the story. It could happen anywhere, to anyone. What did you think of the story? I bet you've got a favorite part, right? Was it when Marcus stayed calm and texted his boss? Or when the captain called Karen to the front? Or maybe when everyone clapped as she shuffled away? Drop a comment below and tell me, I want to know. And here's another question, have you ever seen justice served this fast? Like, someone being mean and then bam, they get caught right away? Maybe at school, or with your friends, or even on TV. Tell me about it. I love hearing your stories, because this isn't just Marcus's tale, it's ours too. We all see stuff like this, and we all learn from it. Let's dream a little. Imagine you're Marcus. You're on that plane, someone's yelling at you for no reason. What do you do? Do you yell back? Do you cry? Or do you stay calm, like he did, and wait for the right moment? It's hard to be calm when someone's mean, it really is. But Marcus made it look easy. He didn't let Karen's loud voice shake him. He knew who he was, knew his job, and knew it'd work out. That's a superpower, not flying or fighting, but staying cool when things get hot. You can have that too. Next time someone's rude, take a deep breath, think of Marcus, and maybe smile a little. You never know what strings you can pull to make it right. This story's over, but it's not really gone. It sticks with you, doesn't it? That plane ride, Flight 217, started with a mean flight attendant and a quiet guy, and it ended with justice and clapping. Marcus walked off with his head high, Karen slinked away with nothing, and everyone else got a lesson. The quiet ones can surprise you. They can win without shouting. They can pull strings you don't even see. So, until next time, keep watching. Watch the world, watch the people, watch the ones who don't make noise. They're the ones who might change everything, just like Marcus did. And that's pretty inspiring, don't you think?